back in the workshop today and we're going to focus back on the cab of the Davy Brown 885. In the last video we worked on the engine and that needs to be addressed. We need some machining done on that. So there's not much I can do on the chassis while that's happening, and that's why I'm going to switch focus onto the cab. But there is a big job on the cab, and that's the doors. So the doors themselves are original and they're reasonably complete but not in very good shape. They've had quite a few repairs done over the years, and some of those repairs are, they're not very good. So we have a lot of work to do to strip them back, figure out what needs to be done and see how can we fix them. So we'll need to start by putting them on the cab. And if I remember correctly, I think they're also a little bit twisted and warped. So let's hang them and see how bad these really are. Okay, so the door itself down here is reasonably straight, but the main issue is that when you close the door, we have a pretty substantial bend out. It's leaning out this way. So I'll probably have 2 to 3 centimeters up on top, so that needs to be adjusted. The other thing is, it seems like it's low, which I can only assume is due to the hinges here, which have clearly been welded back on, have been welded on too high, and that's bringing the whole door down. So we need to bring that all up. We need to make sure that we can straighten this up. We do have a nice door opening mechanism here, so at least we have that. We'll salvage what we can. Okay, let's try the other side. And this one is even worse. This door, this side, very similar issue. Looks like the entire door is quite substantially leaning outwards, and again seems to be low. Okay, we'll start with the right hand door. On this side we can see we've got an additional piece of plate put outside, it looks like. The hinge seems to be between, so that's what happened. So the hinge was originally on the outside and this plate has been added to the outside of the hinge. You can see some of the original metal there. There also seems to be 3 bolts on the other side, seem to hold this whole piece of flat iron here together. That'll all need to come off, I think. Down the bottom then, looks like this piece of flat iron comes all the way down. And again, we've got some mishmash of welding. It is broke, this piece of metal, which is interesting. Or is that 2 pieces of metal actually with some Bondo? Actually, that's not all one piece. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. Let's bring this over to the bench. I think the first thing is, let's take out the glass and try and preserve it. Obviously this one down here is broken, so we'll have to get a new one, but we can try and keep it intact to get the right size. And let's start taking some of the rubber seals out and maybe the drawer handle off. Okay, I'm going to start by taking off this broken glass. What damage can I do, right? I am going to just tape it together so that it holds its shape, so that when I do go to get a new one made, they can just trace this out. So if you're not familiar with these seals, they have a bead that goes in all around that squashes the rubber together. This seal will need to be replaced anyways because it's perished at the bottom. So if you can find where the bead is, usually you can just get the little bead out and that'll take the pressure off the seal. Now sometimes if the seals are very rotten or very old and hard, that still might not be enough. You may need to cut it out with a Stanley knife. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, so as I expect, it's gone very hard, so I'm going to cut a little bit off the seal. As I say, I need to replace it anyways, so that should be fine. So the glass should come out now. There we go. First one out. Okay. Keep the seal so we can measure it and see if we can get one that's reasonably close again. But for this opening window, it's in an aluminium frame and it seems to be riveted to the metal, so I'll have to drill out the rivets. The actual glass itself is attached to the handle with it looks like some kind of bolt. I wonder, do I need to take that off? Because I will definitely break those plastics taking them off. Or can I work with it as is? Let me see if I can take it out first and then that maybe give me a better idea what I can and can't do. This may or may not come off easy, and I hope I don't break the glass. Okay, then I'm going to go around gently and just try and pry it out bit by bit and see how it goes. I noticed here the handle is attached to the frame. So, I need to take that off. Okay, I think that is it. Okay, happy days. Okay, that's really nice to get that all, and I nearly broke it. So next thing, let's get the handle off. It actually looks like the handle mechanism is still working, albeit very loose. So, need to see, we've got 3 bolts on this side, and we've got some screws on this side that I suspect may not want to come out either, but let's try. Hey, 2 of them. That's our first. Just put the wire wheel on those quickly, give me a better chance of actually getting the right socket onto them. Okay, and then this should pop out here, I think. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, okay. Plenty of grease, probably what kept it going. It's still working. Yuck. I always find the best thing to do with items like this is to put them back together while you're waiting to restore them, because it's just much easier to know where everything goes. So next is the door seal, and this has not got much of the door seal left. There's only maybe a quarter of it less. So we will need to find new door seal, and as with the windows, the door seal's gone very hard. So I'm going to take all these bolts off and see if this plate will come off. Let's have a look. It is worth considering, as I'm thinking now, both doors were bent out on the top. And I'm wondering, is that from repeated closing of the door? There's quite a distance between the hinge and the top of the door. And I wonder, was there a tendency for these doors to bend out? Something to consider. So obviously they put this reinforcement bar in, maybe to do two things, to hold the hinge, but maybe to try and straighten it as well. You can see here it's flexed further. So we may need to strengthen that section of the door somehow. Food for thought. Okay, I've moved this around a bit. I can see there's a small bit of weld here that's catching it. Let me get the grinder and let's just nick that bit off first. Okay, now we can see a lot more. Also looks like the frame is broke underneath. I'm going to chip away a bit more of the filler here first and see what that does. So like the other one, I'm just going to take it looks like there's a little bit of weld here, so I'm just going to nip that off. Okay, that's a bit clearer. We have a mix of rust, metal, fiberglass and polyfill for good measure, and newspaper. Okay, I'm going to just keep going here and take off as much as I can, and then we'll reassess the situation then. Okay, here's what I think may be going on. So looks like originally there was a joint here and one here. So the top of the door was obviously in a separate section. But it looks like there's twisted metal here, and it looks like this whole section at some stage was added in, I think. So it looks like the door came off that hinge, I suspect. But when they put it in, as you can see here, there's just tons of filler. It's just not really a great job, right? It's just kind of patched in there. So you can see here where it patches in and back down here. So you can see the skin on this whole side is quite rusted. So I suspect that rusted out, the hinge came off, and that was the repair that was done at the time. This is the bottom of the door down here. You can see there is some more sheet metal work done down there, and that'll need to be fixed as well. So yeah, we're finding a little bit of filler. Took the top hinge off here because I was looking at the alignment, trying to figure out what's straight, and I started to suspect that the hinge, the top hinge here, might be causing some of the misalignment. And I think it is. So we still... So right there now, that bow out the way is not nearly as dramatic as it was. I think that hinge was pulling it out a little bit. We're still out too far here on the bottom. We're still a little bit low on the top as well. So I think what I'm best off to do is take off the bottom hinge as well, and then try and see how square the door is, and start by getting the door reasonably square. And then as I start to patch and fix, then I can keep checking and make sure that it's all square. And at the very end, then I'll put the hinges back on. I might consider, let me think about it and see, I might consider putting on the hinges a little bit differently, because at the moment it allows no adjustment at all. And I'm wondering if I had a different way of bolting them to the door that would maybe allow a little bit of adjustment, might be beneficial. All right, let's keep going and see how we get on. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay. So interestingly, it's not actually that crooked at all when I do that. Now knowing that it can flex a little bit here, but that is actually not that bad of a starting point. I'm actually hitting down here, so I think this bottom bit needs to come out. Maybe let's do that first. Yeah, let's get this bottom corner out a little bit. Okay, so I bashed on this a little bit on the bottom, and I think now, at least I think we have a reasonably good starting point. Pretty much touching all the way around now. There, this last little bit down the bottom. I'm going to go with that. So that's the right hand door stripped back as far as we can go. I need to order material though, so I don't have 1 inch box. I need to get more of that, and I don't have thin enough metal either for the skin, so I need to get probably 1.2 millimeter sheet steel. So those need to be sourced. So what I'm going to do while I figure out how I get those is I'm going to go ahead and strip down the other doors, so at least we know both doors what we're dealing with and exactly what's needed in case I need anything else to the other door. So let's go ahead and repeat this process again on the left hand door. The right hand door stripped, very similar story to the other side. We have actually the original hinge, and it hasn't been re-welded on, so I'm going to try and keep that. That's one good reference point. The hinge was a little bit bent, so I straightened it. The bottom one, a lot of work here again done on the bottom side. This is all being welded in. This isn't original, and then the hinge has been moved as well, as you may see from the back side, all welded back in, so not in good shape. But that one was way off as well, so I think actually the bottom hinges were thrown off the door quite a bit. So with this door, again, top hinge, good reference point. Again, when I put it on the first time, it was actually the bottom that was in rather than the top being out. And when I bring it all in together, this is no longer pushing out here. There's good contact on the bottom, good contact here. I had to bend the bottom just a little bit, and now it looks like we're in good shape. So we have a good starting point. Obviously, as we cut and weld, it can change, but at least we know we're starting from a reasonably good place. So that's it for this weekend. We have the 2 doors stripped down, the glass out. and I have a good idea what I need to do now to get them completed. There's going to be a lot of work on these doors for sure, which I kind of expected, so is what it is. Need to go get materials, so we'll leave it at that and we'll come back at it again next weekend.